In this video, we will consider the risk monitoring task, which could be subtitled Evaluating Risk Management Options. Risk monitoring is the fourth step in our generic risk management model. It has three tasks: monitoring or gathering strategic data, evaluating that data to determine if you are getting the desired risk reductions or risk payoffs, and iteration, which means reinitiating the process when the desired outcomes are not being obtained. When risk managers choose the best way to manage an assessed risk, that decision is a conditional one. It is the best decision to make at that point in time, given what the risk managers know and do not know about the problem. Because there's uncertainty remaining, it's possible the decision will not work as intended. It's also possible that as uncertainty is reduced, even more in the future, a better solution will become evident. Consequently, every risk management solution should be considered conditional and not necessarily a final decision. To monitor means to watch, keep track of, or check for a special purpose. So with this as our context, we can ask, just what is it we should be monitoring? Because there's uncertainty in risk decision making, it may make sense to monitor information we use to make our decision. Did the assumptions made in the risk assessment or in our decision process prove to be valid? If critical data gaps were identified in the remaining uncertainty, are we making progress in filling them? In some cases, we may gather data that can help us validate the results of the risk assessment. So it will make sense at times to monitor decision information. In addition to, or in lieu of decision information, we may monitor the implementation of the decision. This means checking to make sure people are doing what they're supposed to do to manage the risks. If risk management responsibility extends beyond your organization, it means checking to make sure that everyone with a risk management responsibility is doing what is required of them. Finally, we should always monitor decision outcomes. We begin this risk management process with a set of objectives and constraints. So it's important to ask, are we meeting our objectives? Are we avoiding the constraints? Good risk management requires evidence of the success or failure of our decision. Any or all of these three items require the collection of data. One of the primary outcomes of any risk management option will be to gather information that will let us know if desired reductions in risk are being obtained. Risk monitoring is the process used for tracking identified risks, monitoring residual risks, identifying new risks, executing risk response plans, and evaluating their effectiveness throughout the life cycle of the risk management option. Let's consider our two case studies. To date, the aquatic nuisance species solution has not been implemented, but it's not too soon to consider what to monitor. Two measurable outputs that could conceptually be monitored are the location of key aquatic nuisance species and the damages done by them. The Vibrio in oysters example is a bit more obvious. We can measure the number of illnesses due to Vibrio parahemolyticus in oysters. Outcomes must be conceptually measurable. The truth is, actual monitoring is a rare occurrence in many applications of risk management. However, if monitoring ever becomes necessary, it's important to have measurable outcomes. Peace of mind would not be a very good outcome to identify. For actual monitoring, the data must be collected. Here's an example of risk monitoring. The location of 104 cases of Vibrio parahemolyticus illness were identified between May 12, 2013 and August 19, 2013 by the United States Centers for Disease Control. These data can be evaluated to determine if the risk management measures in place are working effectively. One reason monitoring is not always done is that it requires resources to gather the necessary data, and the money for monitoring has not always been allocated. Risk management in the public sector requires resources, and we live in a time of scarce resources in most governments. As a consequence, monitoring the results of specific outcomes is not always being accomplished. In a perfect world, monitoring is ongoing. It may be continuous data collection, or it may mean collecting data periodically on a regular schedule. When monitoring includes decision information, you should monitor changes in the decision environment that could affect your assumptions of the likelihood and consequences of the risk itself. As uncertainty is reduced over time, your risk estimates could change in ways that could affect your risk management decision. Remember, your risk management decision is conditional on the information available at the time it was made. As that information changes, so might the best decision. There is another sense of the monitoring task to consider. Sometimes we might be tracking specific risks, for example, risks identified in our risk register. Risks that have been identified as of concern have to be tracked. If early warning signs appear, we must be prepared to step in and manage the situations as they emerge and develop. For example, if we identify sharp price increases as a risk for one of our projects, we need to track prices to learn if that increase is materializing. Risk tracking means systematically tracking the risk we have identified as risks of concern. It includes identifying new risks as they arise, assuring that we are effectively managing existing risks, and all this time capturing lessons learned that can be applied to future risk assessments and resource allocations decisions. It is not enough that the data be collected. They must be reported to all the relevant risk managers inside and outside of your organization in a consistent manner and on a consistent basis. Evaluating the data must follow the collection of the data. Evaluation is a periodic activity undertaken by risk managers and necessary staff to review the data and assure that adequate progress is being made toward the risk management objectives. An extensive evaluation may repeat one or more tasks of the risk management model, or in some cases, it could lead to an update of the risk assessment. Regularly scheduled risk reviews are required to ensure that your risk management objectives are being met. The review itself may be ongoing, weekly progress meetings for example, or it may be periodic, every 2 years. The review should identify any instances where progress toward an objective is unsatisfactory. It should also indicate when a risk's impact is greater than expected. The risk review ought to also look for the occasion of unanticipated risks emerging. For example, the automobile industry has been so successful in making automobile theft more difficult that these improvements are considered responsible for the dramatic rise in the number of carjackings in the United States. The evaluation may reveal that your risk management decision may not be adequate for any number of reasons. Mistakes may have been made in the assessment or the risk management decision. Reductions in uncertainty may produce better information that points in the direction of a better solution. It's also possible that conditions may have changed that increase or decrease the risk. Changes in values may change the decision-making environment, making some solutions more or less acceptable. The evaluation process can confirm whether adequate resources have been allocated to risk management. If the evaluation shows the risk management objectives are being met or adequate progress toward them is being made, there is no need to modify the risk management option you have chosen. If evaluation suggests that adequate progress has not been made, risk managers may decide to repeat some or all of the risk management process. Additional risk analysis may be required to control the risk. This self-check is a vitally important part of any serious attempt to make good decisions under uncertainty. Uncertainty in decision processes does not go away, and it's likely to be revealed in time through research, monitoring, or risk outcomes. In our last two slides, we'll consider adaptive management, a particular strategy for dealing with uncertainty. Adaptive management may be part of the risk management option. Adaptive management is a form of structured decision-making that emphasizes uncertainty about risks, responses to management actions, and the value of reducing that uncertainty to improve risk management. Learning about uncertainty and risk plays a key role in adaptive management. It is a means to the end of good risk management. The U.S. Department of the Interior has produced an especially useful document describing adaptive management strategies in great detail. It's available in your course site. We'll conclude this video with a few more words about adaptive management, a potentially valuable tool for this risk monitoring step. Adaptive management is a decision process that promotes flexible decision-making that can be adjusted in the face of uncertainties as outcomes from management actions and other events become better understood. Careful monitoring of these outcomes both advances scientific understanding and helps adjust policies or operations as part of an iterative learning process. Adaptive management also recognizes the importance of natural variability in contributing to ecological resilience and productivity. It is not a trial and error process, but rather emphasizes learning while doing. Adaptive management does not represent an end in itself, but rather a means to more effective decisions and enhanced benefits.